Now, junk items are a popular concept in the gaming world. They're basically useless trash that you can pick up whilst traveling, which, aside from cluttering your inventory, can be sold for chump change or simply look pretty whenever your character decides to drop it. But you know what? There are some trash items that can be turned into utter treasure. So let's have a chat about them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game junk items you didn't know can be turned into treasure. Number 10. Roll of paper and a broom. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls series has always featured a huge collection of junk items that are worth absolutely nothing, and the first thing that you're likely to do after accidentally picking one of them up is to drop it back onto the floor. That said, there is one secret location in Skyrim that allows you to actually find a use for useless junk and, more importantly, turn it into something powerful. Underneath the College of Winterhold, you can find an unmarked chamber called the Atronach Forge. The notes that you can find about it mention that the workshop allows its user to summon Daedra by placing the correct items in its front container. However, what the game doesn't tell you is that the forge is also capable of spawning rare items like Daedric weaponry and magical artifacts, and in the case of the latter, one of the necessary ingredients is basic household items. By combining specific alchemy ingredients with rolls of paper, you spawn powerful elemental spell scrolls, and if you use a broom instead, staffs capable of summoning Atronachs. One man's broom is another mage's demonic artifact. Number 9. Super Fail Dish. Rune Factory 3, a Fantasy Harvest Moon. Rune Factory 3, a Fantasy Harvest Moon, just like non-Fantasy Harvest Moon, features cooking as one of its core mechanics. The meals that you make require specific ingredients, cooking utensils, and then a little bit of luck. Depending on your cooking skills and how closely you follow a recipe, the dishes can have a different chance of success. If you don't succeed, you end up with a failed dish, and if your luck is especially bad, a super fail dish. The failed meals are junk items. They're harmful to eat, and aside from Sophia liking them as gifts, they're practically worthless in terms of sell value. It seems like the only thing you can do with them is throw them away, but their terrible stats are actually secretly a weapon that you can unleash on your enemies. As is the case with other food items, super fail meals can be tossed at attacking monsters, and this will actually cause them to lower their stats. In fact, since super fail dishes lower their target's health by a whopping 80%, if you toss just a couple of these at a monster, you can kill it instantly. Who needs combat training when you can just absolutely suck at cooking? Number 8. Toaster. Wasteland. The Wasteland series has a bit of an obsession with toasters. Each game features a whole separate skill exclusively dedicated to repairing them, and although you may question why anyone would want to waste their skill points on this, well, let's just say that there's a very valuable but hidden benefit to knowing your way around basic kitchen appliances. In Wasteland 2 and 3, there are several broken toasters that are scattered around the world. To your character and everyone else, they might just seem like nothing but junk, but if you actually bother to invest enough points into toaster repair, you can fix them by pulling out whatever is jammed into their crevices, which for some reason is always some sort of legendary one-of-a-kind treasure. In Wasteland 3, the available rewards for repairing toasters are a Tesla coin rifle, a magical blood staff, a uranium-infused crossbow, and many, many more. Since toaster repair doesn't have any use besides finding treasure in trash, most people don't really pick this skill. However, once you realize just how powerful the treasures you find get, it becomes clear that you won't even need any other skills to completely destroy your enemies. Number 7. Attack FXR Badge. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. The badges are an important part of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. They are an equipable part of your gear that provides your character with buffs and special abilities. But then there's the Attack FXR Badge, an item that seemingly does nothing but add cricket noises to Mario's attacks. In terms of its effect, the badge feels like a piece of trash that you're never going to equip, so as to not waste your limited badge slots on just a gimmick. However, there's actually a secret use for it that allows you to instantly win a rather difficult boss fight. The castle where you find the badge belongs to a giant dragon named Hooktail. You have to fight him towards the end of the level, but if you dig around the castle a little, you'll discover that Hooktail is secretly afraid of crickets, the same crickets that the FX badge imitates. If you equip the badge during the fight with Hooktail, you can immediately cause the dragon to run by swinging your hammer and making some noise, making it a hidden treasure of Hooktail's castle. Shout out to whomever hid the boss's greatest weakness inside his own blood bloody home. Number 6. Paddle Ball. Fallout 4. Fallout 4's Nuka World DLC adds a variety of theme park-inspired junk items into the game. One of them is a paddle ball, which despite being a simple child's toy, is actually recognized as a weapon. This may seem surprising to those who pick it up, as the toy really does nothing besides bouncing a rubber ball at your enemies. However, if you discover one secret, this feature can actually become quite deadly indeed. When exploring Nuka World's bottling plant, you can stumble upon a secret lab in which the theme park scientists were developing a special nuclear chemical based off of Nuka-Cola. If you do enough digging, you can actually find the blueprints for a weapon that uses this formula, and once you do, you can modify it to work for your paddle ball as well. Though the Nuka-Cola ammo is meant to be used for the squirt gun, the blueprint secretly unlocks a new weapon mod for the paddle ball as well, allowing it to bounce nuclear chemicals at your enemies. A Nuka-Cola infused paddle ball will cause small explosions that blow up in people's faces, making it both hilarious and quite lethal at close range. Number 5. Dubious Food. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of the more iconic mechanics of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the game's cooking system. Link can use whatever ingredients he hunts and forages to prepare food that can heal him greatly or buff his stats. However, sometimes the results of your culinary adventures leave a lot to be desired. Whenever the player combines items that aren't compatible, they end up with a pile of dubious food, a meal that is so bad the game even censors it for you. The meal can heal a random amount of health, but most dubious dishes can't heal more than 2 hearts, making them virtually useless. That said, you don't have to throw them away. In fact, if you know the right person, they can be turned into a high-value food anyway. If you take this dubious food to Moza in the Rococa Hills well, the girl will actually transform it into monster stew for you, which fully refills your heart containers. Moza's services cost 10 rupees, but considering how many extremely rare resources it normally takes to make food that fully heals you, it's still worth it to achieve the same effect with some random trash that you put together in a pot. Number 4. Bones. Castlevania Harmony of Despair. In Castlevania Harmony of Despair, the player has a variety of different weapons to choose from when making their way through Dracula's castle, unless they die along the way, that is, in which case their only valuable item is a useless throwable bone. If you play Harmony of Darkness in co-op mode, when one of the players dies, they transform into a skeleton. Regardless of who they play as, the skeleton can't do anything aside from running around and throwing bones which barely do any damage to enemies. The bones seem to be there just to annoy the other player, but in reality, they're secretly the best weapon in the game. And why is that? Well, because despite dealing minimal damage, the weapon secretly has a small chance to spawn a giant bone which has a chance to deal 9,999 damage instead. Yes, although it is rare, if you spam bones at the enemy, it's possible to release a rare bone that instantly kills everything it comes into contact with. And since it's a giant bone, this means everything that you can see on the bloody screen. Giant bones are especially useful when fighting bosses, since all you have to do is spawn one of them and your opponent is instantly finished. No aiming or skill required. Number 3. Club of Hill Giant Strength. Baldur's Gate 3. Aside from powerful magical artifacts that make your party stronger, Baldur's Gate 3 is also filled with a variety of useless miscellaneous objects that exist solely to make the world feel more immersive and interactable. And then there's the Club of Hill Giant Strength, which is a bizarre fusion of the two. The club is a magical artifact that masquerades as a common household item. It's located inside the Wizard's Tower in the Underdark, where it poses as a spare leg of one of the stools scattered across the floor. Unless your party passes a perception check, they won't notice anything weird about the stool, and then they'll treat it like any other piece of furniture in the game. However, if they spot that there's something odd about one of its legs, you get the option to break it off and pick up the Club of Hill Giant Strength that boosts the user's strength to 19 regardless of what their actual stats are. You know you're in a wizard's home when stuff like this is used as spare stool legs, right? Number 2. Wet Goop. Don't Starve. If the title didn't make this clear enough, cooking is an essential part of Don't Starve. Learning how to transform the resources you forage into proper meals is necessary for your character's survival, but if you mess it up, the effect can be costly. If you use incorrect ingredients in a cook pot instead of a hearty meal, your character will end up with wet goop, an edible but completely useless food item that doesn't restore any hunger. Cooking up wet goo can be hurtful as well because it basically wastes precious resources. However, the goop can also be made using inedible things like sticks, and if you learn how to exploit this, you'll actually want to make as much wet goop as possible, and I will now explain why. And that's because wet goop is still treated like a food item, meaning that animals and pigmen will still be lured to it when you drop it on the ground. This means that if you make wet goop out of inedible things, you can create very efficient bait to gain huge amounts of meat and other valuable items without wasting anything of value yourself. It's the perfect trade-off that you really don't want to miss out on. And number 1, the broom. Assassin's Creed 2. If you were to ask an average person what the most iconic weapon from the Assassin's Creed Creed series is, most would likely say the hidden blade. However, to those that have played Assassin's Creed 2 extensively, well, they'll tell you that the true weapon of a seasoned assassin is a common broom. In Assassin's Creed 2, it's possible to fight with improvised weapons, such as pitchforks, fishing poles, and brooms. For some bizarre reason, these items, but especially the broom, are somehow the deadliest things that you can unleash upon your enemies. The broom, despite being easily disregarded as a junk item, is secretly capable of dealing huge amounts of damage upon your enemies. When Ezio picks it up, it acts and sounds exactly as a mace would. Including its high damage output, they can take down entire squads of armed guards with just a few swings. To make things even more ridiculous, the broom is capable of performing stealth kills, meaning that you can actually slit people's throats with a broom if you sneak up on them. It seems like splinters really are deadlier than anyone thought. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game junk items you didn't know can be turned into treasures. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. Hope you treat yourself well, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.